Welcome. Good morning. It's raining, so I'm a frizzy mess today. So, it's Tuesday, coffee chat. I'm so excited. Today we are talking about food intolerance because it's on the rise, right? Like overall, food allergies, food sensitivities, food intolerances, they're all on the rise and they're all different things. But today we're going to focus on food intolerance because statistically, we know that one out of every four people are aware they have an issue with a particular food, but those other three likely have an issue with a particular food. They just haven't connected the dots yet. That's crazy, right? So almost everyone has an intolerance to a certain type of food. Now, you've heard me say this before. Autoimmune disease, chronic illness, those things are trees with many roots, meaning there are root causes for everything that you experience as a symptom. And a lot of those, not all of them, but a lot of those are food intolerance symptoms. And so we're going to talk about what those things have to do with each other. And a lot of times your food intolerance symptoms may not even seem like they're related to food because they can hit immediately all the way up to 48, or if you're having particular digestive troubles, 72 hours after you've ingested that food. So as you can imagine, unless you are fasting for 72 hours, which I don't advise unless you really know what you're doing, then you could be like, well, was it the cheese I ate? Was it the bread I ate? Was it something I ate on Saturday or Friday? Or, depending on how long it takes your symptoms to show up, then, you might not know. So a lot of times people say, well, like, why are we focusing on food intolerance symptoms when there are more dangerous things like food allergies to discuss? And it's easy. It's because most people are eating foods they can't tolerate, not having big symptoms like an allergic reaction, which is obvious, but still having big symptoms from it, but don't even know it. So in talking to people every single day, and this is my anecdotal estimate here. Like I said, 1 in 4 is the statistic, but about 80% of people that I talk to, they have said, well, they end up having symptoms from something that in our initial appointment, they're like, oh yeah, I eat cheese, but I don't seem to have a problem with it. Or I eat avocados every day, but that's not what's causing my trouble. And I harp on avocados because it's one that people assume is a health food, and it is, but it's not okay for everyone. And so it's a really good food to mention, like, oh, wow, I could be having a reaction to avocado, right? So today we're going to talk about food symptoms, what they have to do with each other, why it matters for your healing journey, no matter what you're healing from. So whether you have a diagnosed autoimmune condition or just a collection of symptoms that won't go away, or a collection of syndromes that won't go away, or even if you are on a wellness journey that doesn't involve any symptoms that you recognize, right? Maybe you're just trying to be the healthiest version of you, and that's okay too. I'm gonna have a sip of coffee. My favorite mug. I would have so many mugs, but I'm trying to pare it down, right? So if I'm just popping in your news feed, or if someone has shared me out, and if you would love to share me, I would love for you to do that. I'm Audrey Christie. I'm a functional and integrative nurse nutritionist and energy medicine practitioner. I help women start their very own autoimmune revolution so that they can stop chasing symptoms and learn how to heal your body from autoimmune disease or any collection of symptoms that you might have. So like I said, food intolerance is on the rise, right? Actually, before I jump into food intolerance on the rise, I do want to let you know that Autoimmune Revolution is open for its founding members. So what that means is for a really little price, you can get in on the Autoimmune Revolution, and it is a place where women come to learn about their autoimmune disease and how to become the healer in their own human suits and in their own homes, so that they experience a more powerful and longer lasting remission or transformation. It is a group where we take all of the bits of a healing journey, right? So you might know what to eat, but we learn how to weave it into our real lives so that we're not always on a mission to like change or fix something. Autoimmune Revolution is a place where we can connect with other families and friends and women. So we don't have to be like the weird one or the picky one or the lazy one just because you carry some illness or symptom or syndrome or disease that isn't visible on the outside. And like I said, a place where we don't just fix the symptom, but you learn how to assess your own human suit, which is much more powerful than someone else assessing it for you, and learn how to heal that issue. So every month you get one monthly masterclass taking you through the Autoimmune Revolution 5R process. You get, and the 5 R's are rest, reset, restore, rise, and reinforce. You get one group coaching call to give you the opportunity to get all your questions answered, monthly action list to keep you accountable, monthly assessment so you can learn your symptoms, discover your root causes, and you don't need an advanced degree in pathophysiology to do that. Also, all of the quarterly nourishing cleanses, most popular product are now in the Autoimmune Resolution. We'll have guest speakers to talk about your biggest roadblocks, a content vault to access the material when you can't make a live class, a community of women so you have someone to lean on, and this is open now. It is open till Friday. So if you were on the wait list, you've already gotten that email and lots of you have already signed up. That is amazing. But if you didn't, go back and check your inbox or head over to audreychristie.com/autoimmune revolution so that you can get in on the meal planning module bonus and other bonuses that might be in your email if you're on the wait list. So definitely check that out. I will put that in the description, which I think it will let me edit. Autoimmune Revolution info. There we go. So it's going to let me edit that. So, all right, just wanted to get that out there. Back to food intolerances. And y'all, it costs less for the entire year for the Autoimmune Revolution than it does for one appointment with me. And my schedule's booked through October for one-on-one. So I encourage you to check it out. Okay. Overall, like I said, food allergies, sensitivities, intolerances are on the rise. Like I said at the beginning, 1 in 4 people are aware that they have an issue with the food. Those other 3 statistically have an issue and they're not aware. So often researchers get together and they try to figure out, they look at long-term studies, they do a cumulative review of studies, and they tend to land on a few different reasons why this is. There is a hypothesis that our food manufacturing has really changed things. There's a hypothesis that the farming process in itself, we're not taking care of our soil. And so to feed as many people, to feed as many animals, to feed people, then we are just stripping the soil of minerals and nutrients. There is, of course, the GMO issue that is a big, wide hypothesis. And I don't think any of those are wrong. I think they're all just pieces of the puzzle. So I want to share a quick story with you. Every person that I talk to has some sort of sensitivity, intolerance, or allergy. Sometimes it's just a little bit misguided. So Kathy came to me unsure what was causing her inflammation and swelling, and she had so much fluid. And this Kathy's someone that I saw in person before, everything locked down. But she had so much fluid weight, and it was apparent on her extremities, on her trunk, on her face. You could tell that it was just like this fluid layer of insulation, right? It was obvious that it wasn't like a fatty tissue or weight issue. So what had happened is she'd given up lectins because she had read that those were a problem for people that had symptoms like she had. Come to find out, Kathy wasn't sensitive to lectins at all. She was sensitive to dairy. But like I said, it takes time for a food intolerance or sensitivity to show up. So it took over 24 hours for dairy to appear. And since dairy was something that she had every day, it was just a continuing cycle of inflammation. Once we straightened that out, she lost 20 some odd pounds of fluid weight in 72 hours. So yes, she spent some time in the bathroom, and that's unfortunate, but that insulated layer was gone. She could move her fingers and joints, and overall, it was one huge leap for one stinking food category. And most of her symptoms fell away. So how do you know if you have a food intolerance? Okay, there's a couple different ways. One way is to assume if you have a symptom that keeps coming back, that you can't make go away, that you're taking a daily medication for, or maybe you're cycling on and off a medication for, then you can assume that you probably have a food intolerance, sensitivity, maybe even a low-level allergy. If you have a symptom, one of the roots, now remember, symptoms and diseases are trees with many roots, right? But one of the roots is a food intolerance somewhere. Number two way to know if you have a food intolerance is that you have an obvious intolerance, right? So sometimes intolerances are really, really obvious, like some dairy intolerances. And I'm picking on dairy today, but if you have a dairy intolerance and you eat a bowl of conventional ice cream, you might be in the bathroom with obvious intolerance, right? Tummy aches, bloating, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, maybe even something a little less obvious like heartburn or gas or indigestion. Now, even if your symptoms aren't that obvious, aren't that immediate, refer to the first point that I made, right? How to know, number one, assume that if you have a recurring symptom that you likely have a food intolerance. Now, intolerances are caused by enzyme issues in the body. Okay, these enzymes do major work of breaking down food so that it is in usable pieces once it gets all the way down into your intestines, right? And those usable pieces float through the intestinal wall and then are used through, and I'm not going to go through the whole step by step, but they're used to build tissue and bone and chemical messengers and neurotransmitters and hormones and all of the things, right? So whether your food intolerances are obvious or not, if you're having symptoms, it could be a direct result of the enzyme or the gland or the organ that produces it, right? Or it could be what we call a downstream effect of the enzyme. Meaning you could be experiencing symptoms caused by food molecules that aren't supposed to be in your bloodstream finding their way into their bloodstream. And what happens is because our immune system is so awesome, it recognizes, for me, for example, if I have dairy, it recognizes dairy as not okay for Audrey and it attacks them. Now, also because our immune systems are so amazing, they remember the offender for next time. So the attack gets greater each time that is breached, right? So you can see how if you are reacting to a food and you don't know that you're reacting to it and you keep eating it, that it doesn't take long for that inflammation to build up to lead to big symptoms, big syndromes, and even autoimmune disease or conditions, whether it's diagnosed or not. The mechanism of action is autoimmune, your immune system coming after self, right? So you can have symptoms like acne that won't go away, no matter how many products and natural products and not natural products and peels and things that you do. Acne, even if it's just one pimple, is an inside problem, right? So you can buy all the creams and stuff that you want. You might heal the skin on the outside, but it's going to keep coming back unless you heal the inside. Joint pain is another common one. Eczema, psoriasis, weight gain, swelling, fatigue, headaches, migraines, and lots more because it causes such a strain on the body. And so now's probably a good time to pop in and say about the weight gain issue. I get so many women that come to me and they say, I went to my doctor with XYZ, a million symptoms, and he told me to lose weight. He told me to lose weight. He told me to lose weight. Here's the thing. Weight might be a root in your tree, but it is not the cause of your symptoms. And so if you're ever dismissed, regardless of your weight, that you need to lose weight as a solution for your syndrome, symptoms, diagnosis, whatever it is, then I suggest going back, finding your root causes, the reasons why you're having those symptoms. And if you work on those root causes, not working on losing weight, but if you work on those root causes, then you will find that the weight falls off, right? And you'll find whatever your set point is, right? Like your genetically set weight point, which is different for everyone, okay? So I know that I experienced that in my own journey, had lots of symptoms, lost just shy of 100 pounds, and they didn't go away, right? So the next time I went around, the weight loss came secondarily to healing the other things that were going on. So how do we test for food intolerances, right? You're like, that's great, Audrey. So we've established that I've got some symptoms and that they're probably from food intolerances, right? But let's talk about how to test for them. So conventionally, you'll probably be asked to do a lab test. Now, if you go to a conventional doctor, they'll probably have you do an allergy test, right? If you're having food allergies, you probably know it without the test, okay? Usually you're having tightness and tingling in your throat. If you're having a food allergy reaction and you don't know what it's for, then a food allergy, usually it's a skin prick test. Sometimes they'll do a blood test or a combination of the two. Then, that can be helpful in identifying, like, I am highly allergic to shellfish, for example. I'm not, but if that was your allergy. The second thing is a food intolerance or food sensitivity test. And I've run a few of those for clients before, but they aren't super accurate, right? There are times when they're useful, but they aren't super accurate. And often they lead to a bunch of food restrictions that are unnecessary, and they only serve to mask symptoms temporarily. So these tests are expensive. They're not covered by insurance, and they are useful if nothing else makes sense, right? So know that if you're doing food intolerance tests, the blood drop or blood splatter test, they are just a snapshot in time, and they shouldn't be used for long-term restrictions. You can use them for short-term restrictions while we figure out what's going on, but by and large, it's not the best use of your time and money. The gold standard for food intolerance is still the elimination test, right? So if you're a mom, think back to when your baby started eating solid foods, or at least when my kids started eating solid foods. The doctor told us, and we kind of, how you research everything when your kids are a baby. Like, you start with sweet potatoes, right? And then you eat sweet potatoes only for 3 days. Make sure they don't have a reaction. And then you can try green beans, and you do the same thing. And then you can try combinations of the things that you've already done, right? Same for grown-ups when you're trying to figure out your food intolerance, right? Technology just can't do what the human suit can do to tell us what's going on inside. So your body can tell you much more in this category, anyways, of lab tests than what the lab tests can. That's why connecting and learning to tune into the messages that your body is trying to send is such an important part of the work that we do in the autoimmune revolution. Now, for you, you can simply start with a category of food. I'm going to pick on dairy again, right? So let's say dairy, and not have dairy for 3 to 5 days. And I mean, like, really not have dairy. Not like, oops, I ordered a burger and it had some cheese on it. Or, oh, shoot, I didn't see dairy as an ingredient. If you do that, you have to start over, right? It has to be strict, no dairy for 3 days. Most people don't have to go 5 days. You have a good idea after 3. So during that time, you want to keep track of what food you ate. Doesn't matter how much, but what food you ate and what time you ate it, what symptoms you have or what mood changes you have and what time those happened, and then bowel movements. So were they loose? Were they rock, pebble, solid? Were they somewhere in between? And what time those happen. Then after your 3 to 5 days, so either on day 4 or day 6, go back to your regular eating dairy and do the same tracking. Food, symptoms, mood, poop, okay? You also want to note your sleep as well, if I didn't mention that before. And compare, right? Was there any symptoms that could have been related to dairy? Was there not? Are those symptoms worth changing up your regular routine? And so while it can take a long time to go through every food category possible, I recommend starting with the 3 major allergens. So gluten, dairy, eggs, those are the 3 major allergens. If you're having symptoms, you will be very, very surprised what comes up for you, okay? So you can get more information on the hows and the whats and the whys by heading over to my website, and it's right on the homepage, audreychristie.com. You can also go to /132, which is kind of the resource page for the food intolerance information, and download the Kickstart Your Autoimmune Revolution. So it has 5 steps to get you started on healing whatever symptoms that you have. And then in the second email, you'll get a free tracker for this elimination test to see what comes up for you. So that's it. To wrap this up, food intolerance plays a huge role in our human suits, right? Your body literally uses the food that you put in your mouth as the building block for all the cells in your body. And those cells turn over really, really rapidly. You don't have the same skin on the back of your hand this week as you did last week, right? And the new skin, its health, as you know, and I'm using skin as an example, but this goes for your eyes and your ears and all of your organs, your heart, your liver. The new cells are built from what you consumed, right? They're built through that filter that happens in the digestive tract. So learning to tune in to figure out your food intolerances is absolutely revolutionary on your healing journey, no matter what you're working to heal from, okay? So thank you so much for tuning in, hanging out. If you're catching this on the replay, be sure and leave comments, questions. I'm happy to answer any of them. And if you have a chance, share it out. It would mean the world to me, and that helps me help more people start their very own autoimmune revolution. Hope you have a magical rest of your day, friends. Be well.